Denver tier pressure. These are my rankings of the NBA MVP candidates.
Nobody talks to me about MVP, Max. Nobody.
Right.
Nobody talks to me about it.
That's right. As you can see, Megatron agreed with my receiver list. We'll see if you're as wise.
I can't disagree with Calvin, so we'll see how it goes.
Here's tier 3. Tatum, Lillard, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Here's tier 2. Giannis, and I would put him second, Jokic third. And in tier 1 right now, the guy who deserves the MVP is Joel Embiid. Not only are his numbers as good as anybody's, right? He's a better defensive player than Jokic. Obviously, you can do whatever you want with defensive box plus, ridiculous. Obviously, everyone agrees he's a way better defensive player than Jokic. He's just as good an offensive player. You want to say Jokic a little better, whatever. Head-to-head, he gets Jokic. I don't see the argument against Embiid from Jokic. I think Giannis has the best argument against Embiid. Go ahead, have it.
I mean, look, I can't argue with the list. I think you can put the top 3 guys in any order. That's why this whole debate about MVP has gotten so fractured and frankly toxic at times, because there's not really a bad argument against any of them. So people are just starting to make different ones. But look, Joel Embiid is probably the most dominant two-way force in the league when he's fully operational and going. And since the All-Star break, he's been feeling great. He's been playing great, and the Sixers, who had the toughest schedule in the league, have been mowing through it. 2 weeks from now, they're in Denver. They play Jokic. Last year at the end of the season, Joel thinks losing to Denver or losing to Milwaukee is the thing that cost him the MVP. He's got a chance in that game in a couple weeks to make a huge statement late in the season. It's on a Monday night, won't be conflicted with the NCAA tournament. I'm really curious to see what happens in that game.
I think that's a great point, and we will see what happens. I actually disagree with about one thing. I think for a lot of the season, you'd be right if you said take any one of these 3 guys. I find it very difficult at this moment to make an objective case for Jokic over Embiid. I think that's a hard argument to make. I
mean, he is averaging a triple-double on the first-place team in the West.
But there's a difference between saying this is really close and saying it's not decisive. Like this happens in boxing. It's a close round, a close fight, but decisively one guy is winning them. That's how I feel about this right now. I think it's decisively, though closely,
like I said,
Embiid, Giannis,
if Embiid
Jokic.
gets that second win over Jokic, that could make the difference.
Let's talk a little MVP, shall we? And take a look at the current MVP odds according to Caesar Sportsbook. There's been significant movement with the Nuggets in the midst of a 4-game losing streak. So the Joker remains the favorite at minus 130, but Embiid has closed the gap considerably at plus 130. This is the closest the race has been since February 1st. So Giannis is rounding out the top 3. Brian, I'm going to start with you. If you had to send in your vote right now, who would be your MVP?
The same person I voted for in the last ESPN straw poll we did with Tim Bontemps. I voted for Giannis in that one, and I'd vote for Giannis today. And I think one of the big reasons is I think the Bucks are the best team. And I think he's been absolutely tremendous at both ends of the court for this team. And but that said, I'm not settled at all. I definitely think we've got more time to see here, and there's some big games coming up. Not that I'm ever going to base it on one game, but I do think that when the players know what kind of skin is in the game for an individual performance, you can read a lot with that player. So look, I have voted for Giannis for MVP in the past. I have voted for him for Defensive Player of the Year in the past. I could see my ballot going that way again this year. Not settled, but certainly he's put up a compelling case. And if you watch him play, some of these nights, he puts up absolutely tremendous numbers, and I don't feel like he's going full speed. I feel like he's still holding some in reserve, and that's what's really, really impressive to me.
You know what's even more impressive, Wendy, is a guy who's never going full speed, but yet still putting up similar numbers. My MVP, which is absolute terrible timing as the Nuggets are in the midst of a 4-game losing streak, is Nikola Jokic. Of course, we're talking Giannis. Is he going to get his 3rd MVP? Is Joker going to join Larry Bird as the first player since Larry Bird to win 3 straight MVPs? Man, it's Jokic for me in many reasons, offensively, defensively, what he does. But his player efficiency every night, which effectively is loosely baseball's equivalent of win above replacement, and Jokic's player efficiency is higher than JoJo's. It's higher than Giannis's. And he proves it on the court with the triple-double streak that recently came to an end. Most 30-point triple-doubles this season, tied with Luka, and they were on something like a 25-0 when when Jokic records a triple-double that recently came to an end. Losing streak, yes. But the Nuggets, much like the Bucks, still the 1 seed in their respective conference. So I gotta go with my guy Jokic, who, not for nothing, wrestles bears, which is just as impressive for me as well.
He's a favorite for a reason. Like, when that straw poll came out, and again, I'm always going to refer to that straw poll because that surveys the actual 100 voters, or very close to the actual 100. Mm-hmm. He had a huge lead in February. Like, it was going to take a pretty big series of events for him to lose that lead. It is starting to happen, but we're not there yet. Your vote is respectable, and right now, I think if the vote was today, he would win it.
What has Giannis's signature moment been this season?
Yeah, I know that there have been incredible games, but I just want to point to something that just happened like 3 days ago in Sacramento. And I know this doesn't necessarily fit as a signature moment. The Kings had won 8 of 9 games, and they played their tails off in this one. Sabonis had like 23, 17, and 15. Kevin Huerter had one of the best shooting games of his career. De'Aaron Fox had another good game. They wanted to win this game so bad, and Giannis just went, no. You're not doing it. I'm going to win, and I'm going to win without even sweating that bad. He scored 46 points in 34 minutes. 46 points in 34 minutes. I know that that's not like, oh my God, look at this incredible 70-point game, or look at this game where he had 17 blocks or something crazy like that. Just his casual dominance in a very, very high-stakes game for the opposition where he just like sunned them. That to me says so much about where he is in the league. And he treated it like a Tuesday night in the regular season or Monday night, whatever it was, and just got on the plane and went to Phoenix and dropped the hammer on the Suns the next night like it was nothing. And like that kind of dominance is what reminds me of big-time star players historically, and that's what this guy is.
There's really no argument against that other than to say those are the teams and that's the caliber of talent that the Nuggets have to play night in and night out, because I think objectively we can say that top to bottom the West is a little bit tougher than the East. Of course, the East, no disrespect to that top
I can't say that.
That top portion of the East. Top to bottom, the West isn't better?
This is probably the weakest Western Conference in the 20 years I've been covering the league. I mean, it's competitive.
Yeah.
Boom.
But it's weak-ish.
So you have,
in my opinion.
Okay, Grizzlies, then you got the Kings, then you got the Suns. That's just kind of who I was thinking about in that top 4. But all that to say is Jokic, and the streak, by the way, was 29, dating back to last season. 29 straight triple-doubles, leading the Nuggets 2 wins. And I know this is like in the weeds type argument with Jokic. And by the way, I think his MVP moment is a collection of those and then a post-game interview that he had with our George Sedano. But if we're actually talking value, like Costco, I'm loading up on toilet paper because the price per roll is simply cheaper than going to Target. You get more from Jokic than you do from Giannis or JoJo in terms of what they're being paid this season to put out. Giannis makes over $40 million this year. Jokic is like low 30s. So all I'm saying is if we're talking absolute value, Nikola Jokic gives you the best
Ja makes
value.
$10 million. In that case, Ja should be the MVP.
If he wasn't missing 10 games or 10% of the season for doing foolish stuff on the court, and he'll be in that conversation.
But he would dominate the dollars per domination metric. I didn't know that's a new one. You should patent it.
He sure would, and that's my advanced analytics coming up to bite me. I was trying to have it support me, but Wendy says he flipped it and reversed it on me. But take a listen to this soundbite post-game with our George Sedano, which just makes me like Jokic that much more.
Nikola, this one unbelievably physical with you. They were fronting you. You've got scratches all over your body. How did you combat that physicality to get the win?
I mean, to be honest, I'm wrestling with my brothers since I'm 4, so I can wrestle a long time. So
this guy looks like he escapes from prison, jumping over a barbed wire fence every single night that he plays basketball, and he's just laughing it off. He's like, I wrestled with my brothers since I was 4. Oh, I'm sorry, Nikola Jokic. I didn't know that your brothers were Romulus and Remus. I didn't know your brothers were wolves. I didn't know your brothers were Wolverines or bears. Like, he's so scratched up every single night.
I was going to say his brothers are the bear.
His performances are just special. It's a coin flip, though, because I don't actually hold a vote, so I wouldn't be upset either way if it went to Jokic, to Giannis, or to JoJo, who God, he deserves it so much.
Brian, how does Joel Embiid, because we can't have an MVP conversation, like Gary just said, without mentioning Joel Embiid. So
Right.
where does Joel Embiid stack up in your MVP power rankings?
Well, I voted for Joel Embiid last year, and I don't regret the vote, even though I acknowledge Jokic has been spectacular in this 3-year stretch. I voted for Joel Embiid when he played 32 games as a rookie. I voted for him for Rookie of the Year because that's how much I am a believer in him. And here's the thing. He really, really, really wants to win this award. Now, I'm not saying he would sacrifice the 76ers playoff position over it. I'm sure he would trade a better position for the award. But he hadn't won it before. These other two guys have both won it twice. He really wants to win it, and you know he's playing like it. And he has got, to me, a beautiful path that he can just take the award here in this next 3 weeks. And I'm really excited to watch him try. You know, last year, or maybe about 3 weeks ago, the Nuggets came into Philly, and Joel Embiid took that game personally. He absolutely dominated that game, dominated Jokic. And again, I would never base my vote off of one game, and I would never say it's a head-to-head competition between these two guys, but that performance was an indication of how much it matters to him. And while I have Giannis on my top line, and I probably have Jokic second, Embiid has been Player of the Month in the Eastern Conference, which in my opinion is a stronger conference, for the last 2 months running. He is the reigning Player of the Week. He is coming on with an extraordinarily strong case, and he's about to go on a mission on this West Coast trip to prove everybody that he's going to win it. And he wants to do it, and he's conscious about it. I know he's not going to say it, because then if he fails, it looks like it's a letdown. So I am very anxious to watch him go for it. And I would say that the vote is in the balance, and that this road trip especially, he could really alter that balance of power.
Win it last season, quite frankly, until he didn't, right? Because last year we were talking about, well, JoJo should have won it the year prior, and oh, it's the narrative that doesn't fit. Is he doesn't have any success in the playoffs, but man, it's been wire to wire these last, couple of weeks here, and then last season the way he led the Sixers. So it's interesting to hear Wendy, who of course holds a vote, say that, this is going to, not based off of individual games or head-to-head performances, but that the gap has shortened to such a degree that a next handful of games will determine a winner, which effectively is just good for the NBA to have this NBA race heating up so late in the season with just 15, 16, 17 games left to be played. And how awesome would it be for the NBA to have a character like Joel Embiid win his MVP, man? That MVP press conference would be electric. So I think it's a win-win-win situation for the NBA, no matter how this thing falls.